Hi, everybody. Yeah, welcome to Just for Women Africa. And my name is Olalekan Amuso, the founder of Just for Women Africa. Today, we're on an interview all the way from Liberia. We have with us Catherine Tobag Woye. Catherine is the founder and CEO of Black Parents Magazine, which has successfully reached over 5.3 million parents. She's also a collaborator of the NFL to introduce American football to Africa and more. We're happy to have her here on the interview with us, and anything that comes up during the interview, she'll be happy to tell us about that. So stick around and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, yeah, welcome back to Just for Women Africa, and we have with us Catherine. Catherine, yeah, welcome to Just for Women Africa.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Catherine. All right, Catherine, let's start off the interview about talking about the work which you had with your father when you were 17 years old to Ivory Coast. How did that shape you to being what you are today?
Well, I think going through the Civil War shaped me in so many ways outside of, having survived the trauma of war. At 17 years old, I was pretty much a refugee and having to go to the United States and assimilate myself in a society that I was just kind of thrown into. It impacted me in not a negative way, but more of a positive way, and drives most of the work I do now when it comes to giving back to my community, when it comes to mentorship, when it comes to uplifting the voices of those who cannot be heard.
What was it like migrating from Liberia to United States? What was some of the cultural shocks that you had to deal with when you got to the United States?
Well, I lived in the United States previously, in a different state. I first came to America when I went to America when I was 6 years old, and then came back to Liberia, and then went back to America. So my first culture shock was probably in the earlier years of my life at 6 years old when my parents lived in Minnesota, where I was really introduced to snow and the cold weather, people that didn't really look like me and people adjusting to who I was as a child, an immigrant, my accent and all those things. But the second time it was more adjustment in as far as academia and learning to adjust in the school year with peer groups and, people understanding me and accepting me for who I am.
All right, let's move away from that and let's talk about the NFL. Why is the NFL interested in introducing football to Africans?
Well, before we get to that, the reason why there's a component of my work that I do, which is I run a media company. And in that media company work I do, we disseminate information to black people who have children who are parents. And within that, NFL players oftentimes are Black. So it's important that I tell the story in that perspective. And because they are Black, they tend to also be African. And within that work, we amplify their stories in the context of parenting and how they bridge the gap from the high school, college to football. And within telling those stories, we found their interest in telling the stories of Black and Brown people, especially African. And then the NFL created a program called the NFL Africa, which basically works with media companies as well to amplify those stories. So over the year, I since moved back home and started the NFL flag football program here in Liberia. That program hasn't launched yet. We hope to launch it next month because, of course, training, coaches, and whatnot to bring the sport of flag football to Liberia, which is sponsored under the NFL. And hopefully those same players get to be a part of the NFL. I say hopefully because they have to apply. And we do implement a college readiness component to this as well, because in order to go to college, you have to be ready. You have to have good grades. So within that, we have our funnel, hopefully, is to the NFL Academy, which eventually these players get to play American football in America.
So apart from it being introduced in Liberia, I don't know other plans to introduce it to other parts of Africa, other African countries, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa.
There is a program in Ghana, and that flag program, football program, actually won a championship, and they were in America this past, I believe, a month or so ago to play in the NFL flag football championship where Ghana was represented. So if all goes well, Liberia will be the next African country, if not African country, to represent flag football in the NFL.
Congratulations and all the best to you on that. Um, let's talk about Black Parent Magazine. What inspired you to start that?
My experience as a parent, I'm a mom of two adult children, and when I was raising my children, as a mother, as an African woman raising African American children, specifically, I noticed these stories weren't being told from that perspective or from the Black parent experience, which everybody knows raising children from a different culture. As if I'm raised in like Africa and my children are American, there are nuances to that experience. So having to break that nuance down while also amplifying the stories of people, of parents of Black children. So we're an inclusive space where we invite all parents from all races, all backgrounds who parent children of color, Black children specifically, because those children are raised different, they have different experiences. So when I found that my children are having these experiences from high school, middle school, and beyond, I wanted to tell those. It started as a hobby, and that hobby turned into a career where we now have such a huge following. We're the largest parenting brand that serves Black people in America, but we are also a global platform as well.
You currently have 5.3 parents associated with Black Parent Magazine. Could you tell our viewers what kind of things you discuss?
Sure, we discussed reparenting yourself. We were recently featured last year, featured in Forbes magazine, where we talk about reparenting yourself. What does that mean? Reparenting is my experience as a child in my parent relationship is different from my experience as a mother in my mother parent relationship with my children. So do I take the same beliefs, the same attitudes, the same approach to parenting, or do I look at my child as they are and approach that? So we teach our families how to parent. So we teach our people how to meet their children where they are. We provide tools, we provide resources in the schools and in the community. We partner with the states governments to disseminate information from healthcare to jobs to everything in between. And of course, again, we partner with larger media companies to amplify the stories of Black parents of Black children. Mm-hmm.
So could you tell us what are some of the achievements with Black Parents Magazine over the years?
I think our most is during COVID-19, where we grew to almost 13 million. We reached like 13 million people. For 7 months, we worked with celebrities. We brought them onto our platform, and we became really noticed for the work we do. And we featured in outside spaces that amplify Black voices. I find that to be our major experience because of the reach we had. As we all know, media is about reach. While I would love to talk about all the other partnerships we have, I think our biggest partnership, again, our biggest two things, that reach we got in our landing our partnership, like I said, with the NFL and the NBA as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Catherine. You're also an author. You recently wrote a book, Whispers of Pepperberry. Could you tell our viewers about the book?
Sure. Whispers of Pepperberry Cove is a book. First of all, the title of the book represents the national flower of Liberia. That's what that pepperberry is, the Liberian national flower. Cove, of course, a cove is an ocean. And the reason why those two symbols represent the book cover and title is because the main character is from county, which is where I'm from, which is the coastal county in Liberia. And it's a heavily fish county where people are fishermen and they do a lot of water things. So that's basically the premise of the cover. And of course, women. The book represents the title of the book, and the entire book reflects on the lives of 16 Liberian women, with the main character being the hero, I should say. And each woman represents the 16 tribes of Liberia. But the story reimagines the roles Liberian women have in our society, while women in our society are represented as second-class citizens and not necessarily do jobs that men usually do, like engineers, like computer scientists, I don't know, you name it. We police officers, construction workers, the roles in the book are reimagined beyond the imagination of the average Liberian woman. So my job In my life right now, I want to retell our stories and reimagining our lives as women, as African people, that we can represent all sectors of life. So the book represents that. So it follows these women in their journey along to bring our country together as a post-war country. Mhm.
So since the launch of the book, could you tell us about what has been the response been like? Have people interested in the book? Have the people reaching out to you about the book?
Since the launching of the book, I have actually had several people reached out to me, but I've decided since then we're doing a heavy push in March, Women History Month, because we want to focus on the premise of the book and why the book exists. Yeah.
All right, Catherine, as we bring the interview to a close, could you tell us what's your advice to women in Liberia and all over Africa who feel the daily struggles of being a woman and who also feel that it's a man's world?
I see you. I hear you, and you can become and do anything you want. And I don't say that as a privilege, but really as an experience of my own. You know, having my entire story, my personal life, my journey to where I am right now wasn't an easy walk, but I've always kept one foot forward. So for me, when I in advising Liberian women right now, post war in 2024, I want you to use your gifts to make room for you. I want you to understand that innovation exists and that you don't have to do things the way everyone has done it, but you can reimagine and do it differently. Use technology to your advantage, use your hands, the tools you already have. And if you need to, go back to school, get educated, and earn the degrees that will change your life and eventually, change the life of your family, your children, and your community.
All right, Catherine, thank you so much for being with us on the show. We really appreciate it. We look forward to interviewing again in the future.
All right, thank you.
And to all of you who are watching, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend who knows a friend about Just Women Africa. And from the next show from Catherine and I all the way in Liberia, it will be bye.